Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third School Psyched podcast. We're really excited tonight. My name is Rachel. We're going to be talking about apps tonight. That's kind of on the agenda. We've got two different creators of apps or programs that are school psychology related that we're going to be talking about. I want to remind everyone how to participate. We've got a couple methods lined up. You can do that through the Google Plus Hangout. You can use the Q&A feature. You can use Twitter through hashtag SchoolPsychedPodcast. Right? Oh, what is our hashtag? PsychedPodcast. Awesome. And also through the Facebook page. So as you guys comment in, we'll read out some comments and read out who's kind of commenting. And we also wanted to get you guys started with, if you have any apps or any programs that you do use, and we'll remind you this again as we go on, please comment and share those apps with us so we can kind of get a discussion of what everybody's using or not using. I myself tend to not use a whole lot of technology, so I'm really curious to hear some of what's going to be said tonight. So before I turn it over to Anna and Rebecca to do kind of their little introductions, I did want to make a correction from last time. I think that last time I introduced myself as a school psychologist, and although I worked as a school psychologist for the last 5 years in North Carolina, and I'm licensed as such in Texas, we use the term licensed specialist in school psychology. So technically, and I don't want the psych board after me, technically I'm a licensed specialist in school psychology trainee because it's my first year in Texas. So I didn't want to misrepresent anything there, get myself in trouble, but it was just out of habit in 5 years of being a school psychologist, technically licensed specialist in school psychology. So a little correction, but Rebecca, hey.
Hi. So I'm really excited to be here. I am a school psychologist in Connecticut, an early career school psychologist. It's my second year on the job, and I'm excited to talk about apps because I have been dabbling in both of these programs just a little bit. I'm starting to get to know them, and I've found some helpful features in both. So I can't wait to talk to these guys. Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a school psychologist. I work in New York State. And I work in special education BOCES settings, so I work with students with significant disabilities, developmental disabilities, and things like that. So I'm very excited tonight to introduce a couple of people. From BehaviorSnap, we have Lindsay and Sasha joining us tonight, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their application and the applications the application has.
Very cool. I'm going to try and bring them in, and hopefully we're not going to have too many technical difficulties, but hey guys, you have to unmute yourself if you haven't done. Can you hear us?
Hi, we're here. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Lindsay, tell us a little bit about yourselves, please.
Sure. I'm Sasha Middleman. I'm a school psychologist. I work in the Boulder Valley School District in Colorado. I work at 2 high schools and a middle school. And I'm co-creator of the BehaviorSnap iPad app.
And I'm Lindsay Gahn. I'm also a licensed school psychologist, but I'm on my 5th year of maternity leave, if we can even call it that anymore. Looking at going back next year, I'm primarily elementary level. That's my comfort zone. And we met because she was my practicum student about 8 years ago. So I've been a school psychologist since 2001. And I'm really looking forward to going back. And we came up with BehaviorSnap together. So we're linked forever.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So do you guys want to give us kind of an overview of your application and what it does?
Sure. So BehaviorSnap is an iPad app for conducting behavior observations. And we have 4 different tools. We tried to get our screen mirroring to work so that you guys could just follow along with us, but what I think we're going to have to do is just hold up our iPad. So I apologize for what this is going to look like. But let's see if we can. I wanted to try and get this to be. What can you guys see? Does that look?
Yeah, you can see kind of, yeah.
Here. How's that?
Yep, that's pretty good.
Okay. So we have 4 different types of observations that we've included. We have an interval, which is something like a time on task. a frequency when you're counting behaviors, a duration when you are timing behaviors, and then an ABC when you're looking for the function of behavior. So those are the 4 different types of ways that you can gather data. Once you do your observations, you can ask it to graph your data relatively easily. And then you'll get a bar graph or a line graph or a pie chart just to show how often the behaviors happened or behavior trends over time. I'm not sure if you want me to go through how each of them works at this moment, or if you want me to hold off on that.
It's up to you guys.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
So interval is really the reason that we kind of made this app in the first place. And we're doing this most often in the schools. And basically, Sasha got an iPad about 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago, I got an iPad, and I got it as a gift, and I was like, I know I'm going to use this for behavior observations. And at the time, there weren't any tools out there for doing behavior observations. So I called Lindsay, and I was like, can you believe that there isn't an app for doing behavior observations? We should make one. But I wasn't serious. I wasn't serious. I didn't really think that we would follow through with it. But Lindsay got right to work with the research, figuring out the steps involved with creating an app. And so we just kept moving forward until the app was ready for market.
Yeah, so that's how we got started, and we were definitely naive when we got into it. We kind of thought that we were just going to put a button here and a timer there, and it would be really simple. But to answer, I know that some people have been wondering if we wrote the code on our own, and no, not even close. We hired a company here in Boulder, Colorado. And so they have to do all of the coding for us. Anytime there's a new operating system or anytime there's a new device that comes out, we get to have some more development that needs to be done. We do, however, when we first started, we helped write all of the specifications, which is a very technical process and was a big learning curve for us. And then once the first beta version came out, we were doing pretty much all of the testing. And before the very first version of the app came out, we ran through, I think it was 63 different beta versions. So there's a lot of, testing and specification writing that we're involved with, but we don't do the code writing. So that answers that question there. But I'll get back to showing you actually how the app works. For interval, oops, lost. There we go. Okay. Is that looking clear? It's sort of hard for me to see what you guys can see.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a glare, but it's pretty clear.
Okay. I wonder how we can prevent that glare.
Is that like that?
That is better.
Is that better?
Yeah, that is better.
We may have lost a speaker here. So here, can one of you say something?
Can you hear us?
Yep, we aren't hearing.
Oops.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Small technical difficulty.
Okay. While they're
Now can we hear you?
you can hear us?
Oh.
Not yet. While they're working on that, I just want to say this is the
Okay. I think that we should be able to hear you guys now.
This is the program that I have tried at work, the interval observation. And
okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes. So sorry that we lost you for a second. What were you saying?
I was saying this is actually the interval observation is the one that I've tried at work. So
okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty easy to figure out as a first timer. But go ahead and tell it.
Because I think an intuitive user interface is pretty important to us, so it's nice to hear that you found it easy to navigate the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to make it user-friendly for anybody who wants to use it in a school setting. So to set up your observation, basically you just choose the number of minutes that you want to observe the child, and then you choose how long you'd like your intervals to be. I'm just going to do the shortest for demonstration's sake. On this one, you can choose whether or not you'd like to have peer data for comparison and how often you would like to observe that student. So we'll just say every other interval on that one. And then this is a recent addition. We have added, people wanted a audible alert at the end of each interval if they're wearing headphones, so that they know that it's time to code. So you can put that on. Sorry, it's hard to do upside down. On or off. And then once you've set up the observation, you hit done, and this is your observation screen. So to get started, you just push this button here, and your interval will track across your time will track across the top of the interval. On the fly, you can add your teacher, you can add which student you're watching, you can add which setting you're in, and even your activity.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Sorry, this just went to sleep on me. So anyway, once you get that all set up, let me just get this set up again real quickly. When your time is up for your interval, the timer actually pauses and waits for you, which is something that we thought was important. It was a conscious decision on our part, so that people had time to really look at the behavior, evaluate what's going on, and determine how to code it, rather than having continuous intervals where you might get a bunch of intervals backed up waiting for you. So they are discontinuous intervals, not continuous. Right. So you'll press this button here when it's time to code the behavior, decide whether the student's on task or off task, and then you'll get some categories of behavior. You can choose which category fits the behavior most readily, and then you can choose the specific behavior. So we can say, okay, this student is wandering the room, but he is still engaged. You can put that down here, and you can also code whether or not this behavior is disruptive or whether it's not disruptive. And then we've also added a new feature where you can code teacher interaction. So we can say, okay, the student's wandering the room, but he's still engaged, he's not being disruptive, and the student or the teacher noticed that the student was taking a motor break, so she gave them a little bit of positive feedback. So all of that can be coded for that one behavior. Then you hit the done button, and the next interval begins. Everything that you code gets put down here in the notes section. So you have a nice little record of what happened without having to do anything but push some buttons. But of course, you can also hit add notes at any time, and you can put in your anecdotal observations. So that's how you conduct the observation. Are there any questions about that before I show the output?
You know, I do have a question on Facebook, so it's not exactly about that, but I thought I'd throw it out because I was going to type it, and it would have taken me a long time. But one of our friends would like to know, how do you maintain student confidentiality with this app? It has been brought up by my supervisor as a concern with apps in general.
Sure. Well, you have the option to use a passcode for the app itself. And so that way you could keep anyone from getting into the app accidentally, especially if you share your iPad, if you use your iPad with students or if it's your personal device.
Right.
Also, when you set up the students file within the app, you have the option to use just their initials, or just first name and a second initial, or even just their student number. So you can include as much information or as little as you feel comfortable with and as that's appropriate to your situation. Because because I have an iPad that I use only at work that's kept in a locked drawer. I handle that one differently than when I use my personal device for things.
Yeah, that's what I did. I used initials.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just so you know, the students that I'm showing you here are my children. They're not actually students in the school. So would you like to see the graph that you will get out of this? Okay. Yeah. So I will move it back down to here. When you're finished, I'm just going to cancel out of this one. But when you're finished, you ask it to graph your data, and you get something like this. You get a nice little summary page showing when the observation took place, who the teacher was, what the setting was, things like that. And then you get a screen like this that shows the percentage of intervals that were on task versus off task. And then down here, I'm not sure how easily you can read this. It has a breakdown of all of the different on task behaviors that we're seeing and off task behaviors, with a percentage of how frequently they occurred next to them. It also tells you about how often the student was disruptive and how often the student was still engaged. You can then compare this to the same data for the typical peer. So that's a powerful comparison for lots of people, teachers and parents particularly. And then down here we've even broken down the on-task behavior. So when the student was successful, what was it that they were doing? And the off-task behaviors, when they were not successful, what was tripping them up? And again, here it has the different statistics on how often the different behaviors were happening, but also tracking that teacher-student interaction. So that's some very useful information. And then at the bottom, your notes can be on your report, or if you don't want your raw notes going out to anyone other than yourself, you can leave your notes off of your report so you don't have to have them on there. All of this is in PDF format, so you can just hit this button here and email it off to yourself, or this can be your weekly communication with a teacher or a parent about a particular student. If you want to copy and paste this, it works for Word documents, so if you do psych reports, you can copy and paste the graphs into them. And it's just a very effective, very efficient, and very consistent way to talk about behavior data with people.
Very
so
cool.
That's our interval, which is sort of the cornerstone of the app. Are there any other questions about this one?
I like that you can cut and paste it into the report, because that was going to be my question. I was like, that would look really nice, you know, right in right in my evaluation. So
right, and we did that because, you know, one of the reasons that we wanted to make the app was because we fumbled a lot with our data when we were trying to make graphs in Excel, and that was just taking a ton of time, and I'm just not well versed in Excel at all. So we were thinking, we just want an app that just, you touch a button and you get this nice graph that you can show to parents or to teachers, and so that's what it does for you in an instant, whereas it would have taken me hours on a Friday afternoon to try and transform my data into something that looks like that.
is there any thought or about like tying interventions to it? I don't know if you guys have something like that or have thought about that, like if it could analyze some of that data and show that, oh, we've got all these disruptive behaviors, here might be some suggested interventions or anything along that line?
Well, that's a whole other level. It's the, you know, it's the tool for gathering the information in order to make those determinations, but it's not linked to any intervention program. But, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, we know about behavior that, you know, having this organized data can help us, you know, reach those conclusions from our training.
Yeah. So
yeah, actually we did think about it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm imagining maybe the ABC observation, which I haven't tried, but that may be one that I would really be able to link closely, because if you are looking for the function of behavior, you know, and then you can determine it in a couple of observations that way, then you have a better idea where to go next steps.
So are you imagining then, like, for, you know, these types of functions, you know, recommending these types of interventions?
Uh-huh.
We definitely thought about that when we were first. Do you remember we talked with our behavior specialist in the district that we both worked in, and we thought about adding something like that, but she sort of cautioned us toward having anything that was too
boilerplate.
Exactly. That was just a drop-down menu of sort of generic interventions, where she's saying it's what you want is a tool that gives you really good data, and then you need to use your professional judgment for each individual student to decide how to intervene. So we kind of, that helped us focus our minds on just getting a great app for getting really good, consistent data. And we do, we can show what you get for an ABC graph, or even how to take data on the ABC observation type, but I agree that once you see the graph of what's happening with a student, it's pretty easy for even, you know, teachers and people who are not psych trained to figure out how to step in and change some things about the student's environment.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I thought isn't helpful about it as an early career person. I think it helps, you know, when you're doing those observations and you're trying to remember, you know, all of the things that you need to remember about the type of observation and the type of recording that you're doing. It helps you just be focused. It helps me because when I have the paper and pencil versions of it, which I also like, that's what I use them for, to just remind me exactly what I'm looking for and when to, check or not check. And so it just kind of walks you through what you're supposed to be doing. And it's...
Yeah, and I think one of the nice things about that structure is that then we're all speaking the same language about behavior, and also it builds that consistency. But it's really helpful in my district when other school psychologists and the BCBAs we work with are all using the same format to take data. It puts it into a structure that we all understand, and so that it makes the communication a lot smoother.
Yeah. I like that.
Would you be interested in seeing how the ABC runs, or do you have other questions? Because I know we only have a few minutes left.
Well, the one other question that I had on Facebook was that somebody that has your app and finds that if you print the report straight from the app, it's a lot of pages. So she said that she wished it would use less paper. So my question to you was whether you could cut and paste, because I didn't know that, but I think you said before that you can, right?
Yeah, and that's what I would do. If I would email it to myself and then copy and paste the pertinent pieces onto a different Word document so that it didn't, because I could imagine, getting 9 pages and having pages that you don't need.
Right. Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah.
I do know that a question that came in earlier that you haven't read yet, but came in to you guys earlier in the day, asked if you can put multiple graphs or multiple weeks of data onto the same graph, and you can do that. So would you mind if I just real quickly showed how that's done? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go back down to this screen here. Okay. So to do that, basically, you would take your data. Do you feel like I probably don't have time to show how to take ABC data, would you say?
You only have 3 minutes.
Okay. So I'll come down here. This is what an ABC, how's this? Okay. So basically to take ABC data, you are filling in this matrix with drop-down menus of behaviors, antecedents, and then consequences, which we broke into perceived functions, what it seemed like the student was trying to get or avoid by doing the behavior, versus actual consequence, what actually came out of the behavior.
So what the maintaining consequence was.
Exactly. And so we graph all of those. And what you would do to get multiple weeks on the same graph is you would hit the View Data button here, and then you can hit Combine with Others. And then you choose for this student, and then you'll get a list of all of the different ABC observations you've conducted on this student, so you can just hit Select All. And then you'll get 4 different weeks of data on the same graph. So for each of the different...
And it's not limited to 4 weeks, but that's what you...
Exactly, that's just what I had for this child, who is my own child. So for each of the different behaviors that you coded, it will give a bar graph showing the most frequently coded antecedents, perceived functions, and consequences. So you can really start to see patterns form of what's happening immediately before the behavior and immediately after the behavior. And you can tease apart the different behaviors. If something's triggering one behavior but something else is maintaining another behavior, you can really start to see that form. And it even has a graph that shows all behaviors. So if you just want to say, in general, when this student is off task and misbehaving, he's most often alone, and it seems like there's a self-stimulation need that they're trying to have met, and most often the behavior is ignored. But this can really show you, okay, this student, when he's alone, maybe needs something to structure up his time, and he may need something to help him with that sensory need that he's trying to get met. So that is how we would use this observation type.
Thank you, guys. This is awesome. I have so many different kids that I work on BAs and BIPs for, and we recreate the wheel every time to put a place to track data for every kid and their specific behavior. And I think this has some utility with being able to track every kid with one app and being able to put together in a pretty little graph. without having to get your sheets together and then put it on Excel and all that stuff. We're running out of time. Any final comments?
No, thank you so much for having us.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
How much does the app cost? I think that people probably are curious about that.
Oh, good one. Good question. So to get the app on your iPad, it costs $9.99 in the App Store, and that gives you a trial version of 12 observations. So you can run through all the different observation types, see if it's something that you feel like you would use in your practice. And then if you choose to do more than the 12 observations that you're afforded with the initial download price, then there would be a subscription price of either $3.99 per month, or you can choose quarterly at $9.99 or yearly at $29.99.
Okay. I think it's real inspiring to see, school psychs taking things and stepping out of the box a little bit and whatnot. So
it's very rewarding to me because I use it every day in my work. So, and it just kind of streamlines things for me.
That's so great.
All
Thank
right.
you. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you guys.
Great to meet you too.
All right. So very cool. Next up, we've got Josh. Anna, are you frozen? You look frozen to me.
I'm not frozen.
Okay. Sorry, I was worried for a second. I was like, oh no.
Okay. So next we have Josh Rosenthal, who is also involved in an exciting technology-based project to ideally make our lives easier.
All right, Josh. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in New York and New Jersey, and I have a small psychology practice, a group practice in Manhattan with a couple offices where I see patients, mostly children, adolescents, and I have some people working for me also seeing kids. And I run a social skills summer camp in Manhattan, like a summer treatment camp. And then I also have my eDRC school behavior tracking tool.
Awesome. So tell us about it.
Sure. So I created it about 3 years ago, and I was using it mostly for myself because I work in private practice sort of as a school consultant. So families would hire me to go in and help the school professionals do a behavior plan, a daily report card. And it was going great, except that there was tons of paper everywhere, and it was becoming just impossible to manage because I would create the chart, email it to the school staff, and then they would print it out and then give it to the kid, and then the kid would have to keep it with him and then bring it home and then give it to his parent and then have to bring it back to the school, and it was just like this never, and then I had to get it somehow, and it was just impossible, and it was getting lost, and then I had to take it and enter into Excel in order to figure out what was really going on. And I was like, there's got to be a better way, So I started looking into, making it, and I ended up making it for myself, just for my practice. And I have someone in my practice who's a behavior therapist, and she's just dedicated to doing this with all the families in the city that we work with. And then I realized, well, wait, if it's so good for me and my practice, maybe there's some other people that might want to use it. And so this year I opened it up outside of the practice to let other people in schools and agencies and private practitioners to use it. And it's completely free right now, and it's not an app, so I give the BehaviorSnap people a lot of props for developing an app because I'm actually developing a different app for my camp for internal use, and I know how hard and complicated it is, so a lot of props for the BehaviorSnap people. But right now we are just a website, and it's going fine. I think we might, develop an app at some point when we need to, but for now, so it's free to everyone, and it's really designed for Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavior tracking. So kids that, maybe you're doing the check-in, check-out with, or maybe someone who's on a very specific behavior plan. And really the function of it is like the BehaviorSnap people were mentioning, is to put everyone on the same plan, so all the teachers and all the school professionals and all the parents are all looking at it in the same way. That's, I think, one big goal. And then make it easy for the school psychologist or the school counselor, the person who's managing it, to be able to manage 5, 10, 20 kids in one location. And they can really much do everything from inside the website. And I think the other big piece is involving the parents. So not all parents are involved in these plans, but if you can get the parents on board, it does a wonderful job of involving the parents by giving them something to do before and after school, by sending them daily email reminders to review the chart, and it gives them their own separate logins so that they can really see what's going on. And some parents love that, and other parents, it's just not that important to them. So it really depends on the child and the school team.
Sure.
The other thing that I like about it, having just begun to work with it a little bit, is that it seems to give teachers a better understanding as the people that are in charge of the reminders and really modifying the behavior. It gave my teachers a really good understanding of how important that is, and how to. It gave them kind of an anchor to remember. I'm going to 2 reminders, and then he gets a mark, or it just was really helpful to them. And once they are willing to kind of take on the project of looking at it and trying to understand it, it's really very easy. So I like it a lot, and I'm hoping to convince more teachers to use it with it.
And I'm really curious about it. I haven't tried it yet. I've checked out your website and whatnot, but I know that I do a lot of daily behavior report cards and whatnot, and check in, check out, and the paper for sure is a pain, especially when you have a kid that's losing it or purposely misplacing it. So I did switch over to using a lot of times, especially for my high schools, when they've got 7 different periods and 7 different teachers that have to be monitoring them, to use like a Google Doc type of thing. So, but even that, I think yours has a lot more features and flashy things with it. So yeah,
and also the other thing that I like for the older kids, like you mentioned, is the privacy. Because I've heard a lot of stories about people misplacing the papers and other kids finding them and then them being embarrassed. And some families, some parents are very private about these things, and they don't want anyone to know that's a cat. They don't want anyone to know that their child is on a behavior plan. So I like the privacy. I like the consistency. And there are a lot of bells and whistles. Like, yes, you can try to do this with Google Docs, and you might be able to pull it off. But there's a lot of features in the system that maybe I could try to show everyone. Is this a good time to try to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to try the screen share, and it was loading very slowly for the website to show through the Google Hangout. So I'm going to give it a try, and then if it doesn't work, I'm just going to give up on it. So let's see what happens here. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So what we're looking at is an example of trending when you click on trends. So when you log in, you're going to see this is the main scoring page here. And you've got the behavior goals on the left, and then this is the drop-down of where the teacher or the provider would enter in the classes. You just enter in the class. That's not what I wanted to do. So if you wanted to enter in a new class, let's say homeroom, you put in the time. It's kind of slow here because of the...
And so same question as far as security and confidentiality, everything's password and protected and secure and everything like that. Is there any other?
Same security answers. I think the only thing we would add is, as a website, we have an HTTPS and SSL certificate here. So that just means that the website you're looking at is actually the one that you think you're looking at. So that's just the next layer. And also, we're hosted in like Rackspace, which is like the top hosting company, I think, for big companies. So So you would enter all these classes in here, and then you just click yes, no, and it adds up column-wise for that class, and each individual goal gives you a score on the right. You can edit the goals, and it has this auto feature, so it gives you examples of goals already in there, and you can just add them to the chart to save you time. You can assign when you invite teachers. So after you create the chart, you invite teachers, and then they log in and they can see it, and invite parents and they can log in and see it, and teachers can score. You can also print blank and scored versions of the chart. So if a teacher doesn't have time to score on the fly at the computer, they can print out a version and then enter it in, score it on the piece of paper and then enter the scores in later. And then this is where you'd enter the details, so you can change the rewards. So different reward parameters based on, whether the child's starting out at the beginning or if you're making them harder since they've been doing it for a little bit longer. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then there's a cool integrated email feature. So if you want to email with the team, which is a big part, I think, of doing a behavior plan, you can quickly email everyone on the team here just saying, oh, looks like you have a great day today, or to ask a question to everyone so you don't have to go back to your email account. And you can also add comments, so everyone can add comments in, and then they are added to the bottom of the chart.
That's cool. I have a question, Josh.
Sure.
When I am speaking to the student and creating goals together, when I was trying to explain to an older student about the rewards, for me, I'm so happy that the program does the math, because it's really hard for me to figure out. So I was kind of trying to draw if you get this much of the pizza, you'll earn 3 blue sticks. But if you get this much of the pizza, you'll get 5 blue sticks. Do you have a way that you explain the incentives and the percentages to kids? Sure.
So we're talking about a high school student?
Yes.
So at the bottom of the chart, it kind of shows you that the percentage, the total percentage here is based on the number of yeses out of total possible yeses. So on the chart that we're looking at, he had 2 classes, 3 goals, so there's 6 opportunities. And out of that 6 opportunities, he had 5 yeses. So it's 5 divided by 6, and you can see at the bottom comes up with 83%.
All right. Yeah.
I have a question. So you have, this yes/no option. Is there a way to set it up so it's a rating? So the teacher rates the child on how well they did on that skill from, scale from 1 to 10 or something like that, or is it always just yes/no?
So we're adding in, so one of the cool things about being a very small company is that you can make changes on the fly and listen to your customers essentially, and that's a big thing of what I do, and I think BehaviorSnap mentioned that as well, that you're constantly making it better. If you don't improve it on the fly, it's going to essentially die, because you don't know what people need until they have it and they can play with it. So we start out with this yes/no scoring system, this sort of binary, but a lot of people have been saying they want sort of the traditional check-in, check-out, 0 to 2. So we're going to be adding that as a feature, so you can choose if you want to have binary or Likert scaling, 0 to 2.
Cool. I'm kind of wondering about teacher buy-in and having the time to do this. So I work with a lot of kids who have behavior plans, and we need to track data, and it's hard to do and hard to get staff, teachers, aides, whoever's responsible to do it on a daily basis. Do you have any suggestions of how to make it happen and how long it takes?
Sure. So that's probably one of the hardest parts about doing a behavior plan, is that you can come up with the greatest goals and have the parents on board, but if the teacher doesn't buy in, it's not going to happen. And when I approach teachers, what I usually say to them is I try to find things that they agree on, meaning we agree that these behaviors are not acceptable in the classroom. We agree that these behaviors are not responding to the class-wide intervention. So we agree that something has to be done. Okay, great. So now we're on the same page with that. The next step is we agree that you want to do something about it. We agree that you want to change your behavior in order to influence the student's behavior. So we're agreeing to do that. why not track what you're doing? So if you're most teachers are going to do something, it's just a matter of tracking it. They don't want to go the extra step to track the behavior. And my response is, let's do it as an experiment, right? So let's try it for a couple of weeks, and if we track the behavior and we can give that feedback back to the student and back to the parents and see a response, then we know that tracking it is worthwhile. And a lot of times, if they know that they're not going to have to commit to it for the rest of the school year, but they can see it as an experiment, then they're more likely to buy into it and give it a chance. Now, some teachers won't buy in no matter what you say, and that's just the reality of some settings, and you just have to do the best you can. But most teachers are willing to give it a try if you can back it up with, like evidence-based reasons as to why this is the thing to do. And point out other examples where it has worked a lot. So I think that, once you set up the plan, watering the plan and making sure that the teachers are being supported and that they know that you're watching it and paying attention is huge, because teachers don't want you to dump this on them and then have them and be in charge of it. They want to know that someone else is really in charge and they're just one piece of it. So that's what I always impress upon teachers, is that I'm doing something, you're doing something, and the parents are doing something. And the student is doing something too. And that kind of buy-in sort of shifts the responsibility, so it's not just, just the teachers.
For sure. Have you found with the teachers that maybe are less tech savvy, or they still navigate with a little bit of training and whatnot to navigate the program all right?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends. So we have 4 training videos on the website that they can just watch whenever they want, and it goes through every step of how to be a provider. And there's also training videos for the teacher and for the parents too. So if you don't watch the training videos and you're not tech savvy, it can be a little hard to understand what to do. But if you watch the training videos, it walks you through every step. So I highly encourage people to watch those.
Awesome.
Those were helpful. I watched them myself.
Let me just see if there's anything else here I want to show you. So in the trending, let's see here. So in the trending, you can look at any individual date. So if you click on any one of these dates, it's going to show you the score for that day, how many scores they got, how many classes were scored. You want to have at least 3 classes scored per day for it to make it significant. And then you see these green and yellow lines. These are the reward parameters. So you can just automatically look at it and say, this student has, most of their scores are above this reward line. And then so you know how they're doing. And then down here you have a running total of their average score for the last 30 days. So this is very helpful in determining which behaviors you want to change too. This is the goals, rewards, and then you can look at the trending by subject. So like a particular class, if you want to see how he's doing in a particular class, or by certain goals. And you can deselect these here, and it will just show you one particular goal. So just keeping body to self, he has a 90% over the last 30 days, and this is how he's doing. And then I can look just at respecting others. I can see how he's doing there. Or if I just want to look at sitting in the seat. So you can really kind of break it down and figure out where you need to focus more attention.
Awesome. Is there a way to cut and paste that into evaluation reports and whatnot? I mean, I use like the snipping tool and would probably do it that way. But is there a
you can do a print screen save and then just copy it right into a Word doc.
Mm-hmm.
The other cool feature that we're working on is, we talked about the Likert scaling. We're working on block scheduling. So if you're a provider and you want to set this up for 20 kids on the same schedule, you can just easily import the schedule into that particular student, and then the teacher doesn't have to do anything. They just log in and the whole schedule is there for them. So that's kind of an organic progression, is that it's gone from this tool from an outside consultant like myself to figuring out more about what school psychologists and school counselors need. And that's something that I only learned by really listening to people and trying to talk to as many people as I could who were using it right now. And we have over 2,000 people using it, and the feedback has been awesome. And everyone is very sort of eager to be heard about what they need, and I'm really interested in trying to make it better for everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. That was great. And also shout out to Lindsay and Sasha for joining us today. We're running low on time. Got to catch The Walking Dead Sunday night.
Was there a couple final comments, I think, from Facebook or questions that came in?
Nope, I think we got them all.
Okay.
I hope if there are comments later, if people are going to watch later on YouTube, feel free to still post your questions or comments, and I will get them to Josh, Lindsay, and or Sasha. Because I also have to say, they have all been very sweet and helpful and available as I've been experimenting with their program. So I'm sure that they will continue to get better.
As always, the conversation continues off air as we work together to do a good job and help kids and help each other. So time to wrap up our podcast.
Yes.
We'll be back in 2 weeks, Sunday, March 19th, Eastern, 7 Central. See you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Good night. Thank you.